Aloha everyone, welcome back to 13 Nights at Tiki Frights, an annual event that celebrates the art of ceramic mug making during the spookiest time of the year, Halloween. I am the Search for Tiki, and we are super excited tonight to be talking to the Shrunken Monkey, who has done things all over the map. He's worked on theme parks, he's worked on shows, he's done prop construction, he's made mugs. So I'm really excited to dig in deep with the Shrunken Monkey and learn more about him as an artist. We're also giving away a fantastic mug. Check out this, the Swamp Creeper from Big's Tiki. This is personally one of our favorite mugs that we're giving away this year. It's got the Big's Tiki touch where the creature from the Black Lagoon is in his little bumper car driving around. We're also going to be giving away a pin from one of our sponsors, the Black Lagoon Room. Look at this. Zombie hand, Frankenstein hand, call it whatever you want. But he's cheersing his cocktail from down under. We're going to be giving this away on the show. We're also going to be giving away a glass reusable cocktail straw from Surfside Sips. It is a glass pufferfish straw, which it still blows my mind how he does this with the pufferfish design. But Surfside Sips helps remove single-use plastics from the ocean by promoting the use of reusable cocktail straws. We're going to be giving this away as well. I'm going to see if I can get the Shrunken Monkey in here. Also have a carving contest. It is the last day because, folks, we only have one more sleep till Halloween.
All right, is it working?
How's it going, dude?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We are live, dude. I love the background.
Look at that. Thanks, man. This is this is my home bar. This is our spare bedroom. Again, with the weird like horror influence, we call it Outpost 31, which like if anybody's big into horror, you know, like that's the base where the movie The Thing takes place on Outpost 31.
Yep.
Also, you know, October 31st, same thing. So pretty cool.
I hope it's a little warmer.
Yeah, just a smidge. It's actually it's fall here.
Dude. I gotta have at least 7 cocktails before I can endure that.
Today it's actually really chilly. I think outside it's like 68 right now, so it's pretty cold for Florida.
That's tough. That's real tough.
We had an amazing like 3 feet of sunshine this afternoon. You'd have no idea.
I want to say something right now, but I won't. I'll restrain myself.
Go ahead.
I'm from New Hampshire, obviously, but I was super excited to come down earlier this year. I got to go to Disney. I go to Disney as much as I can. I got to meet you, and I got to meet Frankie from Taboo Relics. I was debating like which cocktail mug I want to use to drink tonight, and at first I was like, I got to use Shrunken Monkeys, but then it's kind of hard to show it off if I'm drinking out of it. So then I thought, you know what? I know what I got to do. I got to drink out of Frankie's mug because he's not here on this live stream, or maybe he's watching.
There you go.
But, you know, so cheers to Frankie. Cheers to the Shrunken Monkey. I'm excited to chat with you, man. How's Halloween been? I mean, Halloween's usually a big thing for you.
Yeah, kind of. It's normally been insane. These last 2 have been really crazy, like not having Halloween last year, and then this year not being a part of it for the first time. Literally, like we started going to Halloween Horror Nights when we were kids. So I think this year is like the 20th year in a row that we've gone, and this would have been my 15th Halloween working there. So like, even though I worked on stuff because it was kind of like recanned from last year, it's been a completely different Halloween this year to like go out and have fun and see haunted houses and like not be concerned about what's happening at Universal and like the chaos of what that is. So it's actually it's way cooler to go out and see other things finally that I haven't done in 15 years.
Well, they always do some of the haunted houses kind of return anyways, right? So usually have a couple new ones. But every year they're recycling several of them. So
kind of. Some get recycled. For the most part, most of them are all new. But it's crazy this year because they didn't do it last year. There wasn't a whole lot of new stuff. So it's still kind of weird to go in and like be like, I made that. Like it's still cool to like see that. So but I'm hoping next year will be even better because like being completely separated from it to like go in with open eyes, not so jaded. So a little different.
Yeah. I think you said in one of our previous chats, you were commenting earlier on 13 Nights of Tiki Frights. Did you work on Stranger Things?
We did Stranger Things twice while I was at Universal. The Demogorgons was like the first really huge project. sculpted by my friend Eric Garcia. He's a killer sculptor. He's now gone from Universal too. He's doing his thing up in Georgia. They're on Doom Patrol and like everything else in the world.
Oh,
Yeah, so we did that, and then the year after we did like the season 3 and 4, I think it was, or 2 and 3. I have no idea, but we built like an actual like life-size mind flare. It's like 18 feet across and 12 feet high. This giant thing. It's one of the biggest monsters that I've ever made.
that's so cool. That was so I had never been to Halloween Horror Nights.
Mhm.
I always like it had been in the back of my mind, like that's something I want to do, but I had never gone. Then I fell in love with Stranger Things. Then they announced Stranger Things Haunted House, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is the year. I'm flying there. I don't care what happens. I have to see this haunted house. So then it was just interesting that you ended up working on it. Of course you worked on it.
Yeah, it was super cool. That one, I still think like my personal favorite was when we did Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Like growing up as a kid, like we didn't really do a lot of Halloween stuff, and
Okay.
my mom was against all the scary, but she worked at the hospitals at night, so like my dad would let us stay up and we'd watch like Tales from the Crypt and movies like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So like I had this growing thing as a kid, and then finally like I remember we were sitting in a meeting. And they're like, "Hey, we're gonna do Killer Clowns from Outer." I had to excuse myself from the meeting because I was so excited. Like I ran out in the hallway and like freaked out. And I came back in. They're like, "All right, I'm composed. Let's do it." And that year I
That's
ended up,
clown energy. That's something you don't
yeah,
hear about every day.
dude, it was cool, and it was crazy because like we also got to like meet and hang out with the Kyoto brothers, get some advice from them on how to do it. So it's like it was one of those like once in a lifetime opportunities.
How much time? Like when do people start working on those haunted houses for Halloween Horror Nights?
Literally, like they're probably working on next year's event right now. If you
Oh,
want
really?
like my honest opinion, like where they're probably at. I mean, that's how it normally goes. We were doing Halloween like year round. Never stopped. It was always, oh, we're doing this Christmas thing, but can you do this thing for Halloween too? Well, at the same time it's happening. It's like, man, it's still 11 months away. But yeah.
I always think it's crazy because like you go to Universal and it feels like they're using every square inch of possible space for attractions and restaurants and shops, and then somehow every October they find enough space to like do 10 haunted houses. It's like, where did all of this come from?
Yeah, and in doing it, we always had like such little space. Like the last couple of years I was there, we finally moved into like an actual like kind of formal, pseudo-formal shop. But before that, we were making Halloween out of this like whatever spare closet we could. There was never like an actual dedicated space. So it got pretty cool towards the end when we had the opportunity to actually like build out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the pseudo for everything with mugs. Like I know right now, like even though it's like kind of a jump thing, I wouldn't be where I was without the knowledge of what happened with Horror Nights and doing all that stuff for so long.
Specifically like sculpting. Was there a lot of sculpting involved?
Yeah, sculpting, mold making, the production process. There was stuff where it's like literally you got to hammer stuff out, like especially in theme parks. It's not even just Halloween, but like we would do stuff and it would show up, and you'd have like a week until something opened. You'd be like, "What happened to all the time?" And it's like, "Oh no, we're doing this." So it was kind of crazy deadlines all the time on everything that we did. So.
I'm always blown away. Obviously, you have some experience with makeup too, but I'm blown away by the fact that like you have hundreds of actors that need to dress up for Halloween Horror Nights, but obviously they're not going through the whole month of October with all this stuff on their face.
Yeah.
So you got to do that over and over and over again, that's got to be all about like speed. Like that's an insane amount of pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, like, growing up, like, I got my start in, like, face paintings where all of this stuff kind of, like, started. It was just by accident, because, like, I originally started Horror Nights as a performer, and one night I got punched in the face by, I scared some guy in front of his girlfriend, and he hit me, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this kind of sucks. And then, like, watching the guys doing makeup, like, they were, like, airbrushing tables, and everybody was having a great time, and, like, everybody was smiling, like, nobody was getting punched in the face. And it was one of those things where I was like, I want to do that next year. And I started, like, I talked to a couple of them, and they're like, face painting is kind of, like, all Halloween. So I started doing that, and then body painting, and then, like, that kind of led one thing and another. It was cool, where it started, like, all right, well, I know how to face paint, and I know how to body paint, but, like, the real money is in doing makeup and learning how to sculpt and like make molds and run foam latex. So it was like
all the prosthetic pieces that kind of like build out the face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it kind of just steamrolled from there.
And somehow he ended up on Syfy FaceOff.
That happened. We all make mistakes. Yeah, it was like FaceOff was kind of like the turning point in my career for all of this stuff. Like I was working in the parks and I was doing cool stuff, but FaceOff really opened the first door into like getting a full-time gig. It was like at that point, like somebody had realized like, all right, maybe this kid does know what he's doing. And it
Yep.
was like again, I was 26 at the time and I had no idea. And I was like, it was like for me, it was like moment of like the ultimate like door opening and mindset change and everything that I had done because it's like I had a lot of success in Orlando and I had expectations when I went on the show and like I kind of screwed up the average because most people in Orlando like if you're on it you either win or you're the first person to go home and like I kind of end up somewhere in the middle. Um, so it was different, but it opened the door to like get those actual like art jobs. So it's like I do owe them that little bit.
Is it like, so I don't know how much you can talk about it or not talk about it, but I've heard on some of those shows, obviously there are other, you get tattooing, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Is it like as stressful as they make it look, or like do you have more time to do it?
No, like Face Off is one of those weird ones where it was literally like the time you had was it. Like they were literally like the clock would be coming down to like the final like 30 seconds and they would have people standing there watching you to make sure like as soon as it hit zero, it was like put all your
You're
stuff
done.
down. Yeah, and if your stuff wasn't wrapped up, like
So that's all
um
legit.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, everything you see in the shop, 100% real. Like that's
That's
exact what
crazy.
you see is how it goes down.
I've heard on some of the other ones, like they'll make it look like it's the last minute, but some of the artists end up like finishing like 7 hours or whatever.
Yeah,
So you never know when
yeah,
you're watching those shows. It's like, is this real? Is this not?
right?
That's cool. So where'd you go from there, dude?
Um
Sci-fi. You was that after Universal?
no, that was before. Or rather during. It was kind of like somewhere right in the middle. Because I think at this point it was like 7 years ago.
Yep.
So Face Off opened that door and we started doing kind of crazy stuff, and then it kind of led to a lot of like just other shop gigs. Even though I was working at Universal, I was still like I was working at other shops around town, building stuff for horror nights,
Yep.
whatever TV shows rolled through. And then that kind of led into Blue Man, which was its own thing. Like I don't, it just happened to end up there. Like it was just really weird. Like one day I was looking, I was like, man, I need some extra work. And I saw Blue Man was hiring and I started working front of house at Blue Man. And then you kind of get to know everybody. And then I ended up working, like I transferred from front of house to back of house where I got into the prop department. And like they really wanted to utilize the fact that I could make molds. And that was kind of like, it's weird being an artist, but someone who's not necessarily I don't do the visual aspect of everything.
Yep.
It's like I'm by trade, like I'm a mold maker. That was what I did every day. You know, at Universal, we were doing sometimes if it really needed, you'd do like 4 molds a day. And like you're not talking like one side, you're talking literally finished usable molds for the next day. Um, so yeah, it's been a weird kind of crazy road that's taken me all kind of over. And it's like I look back sometimes and I know it's not wasted on me. It's like I look at it, it's like I've done some pretty cool stuff that it's like, man, how did that even come about?
Sometimes you don't really realize it though until like in hindsight when you're looking back and you're like, wow, I can't believe that
Yeah.
actually happened.
Yeah, it's like I look at some of the stuff and I'm like, man, I'm only like right now I'm 33, but like at the time I was like, man, I'm 28 and like we've done this and this and I've done this thing and we've gone here. It's like I don't know what I did that made me so lucky to have those opportunities, but like just know it's not wasted on me in any way, shape, or form.
That's so awesome, dude. Obviously not, because we love your mugs, and
Thanks.
obviously all of these things were, you know, a series of things that led to you going full time with mug production.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Blue Man Group.
Hmm.
Obviously, I would assume you're a big fan. I remember you went out to Vegas
Yep. We
to
went and
go see
watched.
Blue Man Group.
Yeah.
The pandemic obviously shut them down, so
Yep.
that must have been devastating. Going
Yeah.
back to Vegas, was it crazy being back?
It was so cool because like there's his name is Kirk Massey. He's a Blue Man who's here in Orlando, but he got on the team to open up the new Vegas show. And we went out to go support him and see them. But for me, it was like Blue Man was this weird place. Like Universal was extremely stressful. And like I loved Halloween. I bleed Halloween, and that was all that was ever on my mind. But it's like I would go to Blue Man and it would be like this ultimate stress relief because it's like the complete opposite. Like every day it's the same show every day, although like no two are ever alike. and everybody's there to like put on the best show they can and have a great time. It's like I can't think of a single day that I was ever miserable at Blue Man. Like it was just the weirdest, coolest thing ever where these guys are playing music and you're stuffing bananas down a tube and you're throwing paint out onto the audience. Like I don't know, just one of those weird things where it was like, man, are we really doing this right now? Like when that curtain rolls up and like everybody, it's like there's no feeling in the world like sitting there like hearing the audience go crazy. And like I got really emotional when the show reopened in Vegas.
Yeah.
Like it was really tough to watch, especially like the opening because like the jobs that I did at Blue Man, the opening of the show, we always had responsibilities where we would move set pieces on and off at the very beginning. And like watching it happen for the first time in like 20 months or something like that was like, it was insane. But wouldn't trade it for the world. It's super cool.
It's so tough because, like, generally speaking, artists have it hard anyways. And so then you have something like the pandemic happen, and it's like, really, like, no.
Yeah.
Very people that have already had a hard time doing what they love now have this to contend with. So I had the same feeling when things started reopening, and I'm like, I can go to a theater. You know, I used to smuggle in candy, and now I'm like, I'm never smuggling in candy again. Because I want to support these theaters, and I don't care if the popcorn's $15. I'll pay the $15. Just don't close the door.
Yeah, worth every penny.
Yeah.
It was crazy too. Like we watched Hamilton when Hamilton came out on Disney Plus, and I remember like I got kind of emotional at the end of that one too. And it wasn't over the show or anything. It was just like of being robbed of the experience of going to the theater and seeing it in person, because it's like it was weird. I know like I had a complaint, like there was one shot in Hamilton where it's from the stage into the audience, and it's like that is a view reserved for very few people who have earned the right to be on that stage, and like for you to put it out there to the public, like no one's gonna appreciate it like what it really is to do that in person. So but call me a sucker, or maybe I'm a sap, I don't know.
I'm the same way, dude. No shame. It's you know, that's why we do what we do, is art.
Right? Yeah.
So, you were in Vegas. You got to meet the man, the myth, the legend, Biggs Tiki. You got a tattoo?
I did. I'm super jealous. You actually giving one of those away. Even I don't have one. I've been trying to get one for a while.
Hard to get.
We're friends, and I even told him, I was like, dude, I'll trade you some of my skull stuff for one of those swamp creepers, and still haven't gotten one. But yeah, no, it was super cool because we've talked for so much online, like through the pandemic, and everybody making mugs. But to like finally like sit in the same room with somebody, and it's like it was cool enough because like he actually tattooed me, so it was one of those things where it's like, oh, this is awesome, man. Like it's like you've known each other forever, but it's like this is literally the first time we've ever met each other.
Yeah, it's such a surreal experience.
Yeah,
you meet people online, you become friends, and then you actually meeting them in person, and it's like, this is kind of cool. Like it feels natural, but it shouldn't.
Yeah, I think we were both kind of like, oh man, it's cool that you're just as cool in real life as you are on the internet. And it's like it's not like this weird persona.
You never know.
Yeah.
You know, Mama always told me, don't meet strangers that you meet on the internet. But now that I'm older, that's all that I do.
Yeah, right.
When you were in Vegas, did you go to Frankie's and Golden?
We did. We went to both. I think like every time we go to both. Every single time.
Which, this might be the hardest question on 13 Nights of Tiki Frights. Which one are you? Are you a Team Frankie's or Team Golden?
If it's like we're just trying to have a chill night, I would rather go to Frankie's. But it's like, if we want to go and have a really good time and like see it, it's again like growing up in the theme parks. It's like for me, like Golden Tiki is one of those things where it's like, not only is it a bar, but they've gone out of the way with like the extent of theming and like to make sure you have a good time. It's not just like, hey, we're sitting in a dark cave. Like you're going for an experience. Kind of like how Sam's is or Undertow. Like granted, they're all different, but it's like you're going there for an experience versus like, hey, we're going to go sit in the dark and have a couple cocktails. But
I feel ya. I thought it would be like a solid Golden for you. Just because like the Shrunken Monkey, you do Shrunken Heads. And going to the Golden Tiki, it's like the most shrunken heads I have ever seen in any place.
There's some cool ones too, man. Like if you walk around, like there's a lot of really interesting ones. There's some obscure ones too that you're like, man, that's still really cool. It's weird.
For those that haven't been, they have cases all around the bar, and it's all shrunken heads, but they're mostly of like famous people.
Yeah.
So you can see like the shrunken head of Walt Disney, and you can see the shrunken head. I think they have a David Bowie and.
Yeah, there's the Bob Gurr one. If people are into Disney Imagineering and all that stuff, like he's got a shrunken head in there. But it's also like you can pay money and have your own head put in there. They'll sculpt yours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you have a certain amount of money, I forget how much it is, but they'll sculpt one of you and put your head in there.
So if I really don't like you, I can like have them create a.
I mean, I guess.
I'm
I don't know what I did to you, but I mean, I would
gonna make
appreciate it.
shrunken heads of all my mortal enemies.
There you go. That way we can go and take them.
I got so many questions, but let's do a giveaway.
Go for it.
Let's give away this pufferfish straw from Surfside Sips. Here's the question: on what season of Syfy's FaceOff was the Shrunken Monkey?
Oh my God.
The first person, we're going. This is a deep dive question. The first person that gets it correctly in the comments will get this Surfside Sips straw.
There could technically be two answers. The Shrunken Monkey wasn't started by just me. It wasn't only me. There were two of us in the beginning. Yeah, there were two of us in the beginning. Wasn't five. However, kind of both.
I mean you. I mean, what season were you on?
Oh, fair enough.
Let's clarify that.
Hey, you can't count her.
I can't count her?
No, that's my mom.
Oh. You want to pick the winner then?
I didn't see who it was. I mean, I think that's the only like right answer that I've seen so far. So someone just copies hers, it's right.
Oh, we can't give it to Frankie either.
Oh yeah, right. But it's okay. Somebody will figure it out. We'll keep watching.
Well, now that okay, so Shrunken Heads, Golden Tiki, you're the Shrunken Monkey. Where'd it come from? How'd you get
to be honest, it was like last minute. We were prepping for a show, Monster Palooza, which is like it's not a tiki thing at all. It's like it's this crazy art show of like people who work in the film business, and like that's what they do is they make monsters. And it was like coming down to like the last minute, and we're like, man, we don't have a sign or anything with our name. And it was literally like there was a blank sheet of paper, and that logo was born, and the name came out. I was like, all right, that's what we're going with. There was no like plan or anything. It's just that's what it happened to be.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's so distinct. It creates a mystery. I had so many people submit that question, like, where did the Shrunken Monkey come from?
Yeah, last minute, kind of typical art thing. Got
Universal Studios, horror pressure.
Yeah. Last minute, how do we figure it out? Yeah, and it's like, there's some new logo stuff too. I've dealt with some people where we've kind of redrawn some things. It's like, it's hard to get away from because it's been almost like 5 years now of that, but it's like, I'm toying with the idea of changing it. We'll see. Not to upset anybody, but we'll see. There might be some new stuff coming. We'll see.
Ooh. My ears are peaked.
Right?
I think we did have a winner. If we discount your mom and we discount Frankie. Sorry, Frankie.
Yeah, he's going to be so mad.
It would be, the correct answer was season 7.
Correct.
And so the first person to guess it correctly was rummed.rosie on Instagram. Hey. Congratulations. You are taking home a glass pufferfish straw from Surfside
Nice.
Sips.
Cool.
Okay, mugs. You obviously you sculpt prosthetics, that kind of stuff. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you use WED clay.
Yeah, I use
Monster clay too.
I absolutely loathe Monster clay. I think Monster clay, it's one of those things that Van Tiki kind of posted on a Tiki Technical Tuesday, and then everyone was like, you got to use Monster clay. And it's like,
yep.
I hate it. I loathe Monster clay.
I love that because it's always so interesting to get the different perspectives. So why do you use WED or WD over Monster clay?
It all depends. It depends on like the speed of what we're doing. So for most of the time, like I use Chavant is like my preferred clay for just about everything. Like even doing prosthetics and stuff at Universal, like Chavant, either soft if I'm really trying to blow through it, or like medium it's pretty stiff. But Monster clay, like it has this weird thing. It's either liquid or it's rock solid, and it's a pain. And like I see why Van Tiki uses it. Like his stuff is super like architectural. Like everything is perfect, like beautifully smooth, and like all his edges and stuff. And like that clay is really good for that. But it's like I think most people know like my main business is not really doing my own mugs. It's I make mugs for other people. And with that, sometimes like the deadlines are just insane. So we use WED clay for speed because it's like you could hammer out a WED clay sculpture. Like I mean, if you really wanted to, in like a couple hours. As to where like Monster clay, it's like it takes forever to heat it up, or just oil-based clay in general. But I would say like most of the stuff that you see behind me, I think you're probably right. A majority of them were wed. All the stuff with really fast turnarounds. And it's like it's a lot easier just depending on what you're doing. Like you have to use water for wet clay instead of using like solvents like naphtha
Okay.
or mineral spirits. So it's not as toxic as everything else. Because it's like naphtha is really not good for you, but it's like all the oil clays. It's like naphtha, like it'll eat it up. You'll have mud on your hands if you use it like inappropriately. If you throw too much on, like it'll just disintegrate the sculpture.
Can you reuse it like you can monster clay or no?
Wet, yeah, you can rehydrate wet clay. Same thing with Chavant. Like once it's all oil clay, so it's like with mugs, most of the time they survive the mold making process. It's like they come out a little dirty and a little dinged up because of like the nature of how ceramics work. Like
Yep.
with having no undercuts, there's nothing for the plaster to grab onto. So it's like most of the time you can get a sculpture out, and if you really needed to, you could remold it without having to make masters. Like you could just keep remolding the same thing over and over. Um, but yeah, I know we're mainly we use Chavant. We use like there's another one, Clean Clay, which is also like super fast. You can use water to smooth it out too. Um, but that's it. I think the only one we really stay away from is Roma Plastilina, which like that's what like they use for like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Um, I know Vasar uses it. I know I learned that the hard way because I remember like we had molded something and like some of the silicone didn't like cure all the way just because there's sulfur in Roma Plastilina clay. So that's like the main reason like we just stay away from it. I don't use it.
Yeah, it's one of those. My understanding is it was one of the very first,
Yeah.
but not necessarily the best. So when they're making all the movies, when they were getting really into sculpting and making all this stuff, that was the one to use. Does it come from Italy?
I have no idea. I'm just a guy who
Yeah,
uses it.
it's an old school thing, and I think the
Yeah.
people that used it in the beginning love it and they continue to use it. But people today, not so much. It's
Yeah.
not really the best for starting out.
And it smells like rotten egg farts. Nah, it stinks.
Just
And then
a,
your hands stink.
just a little side effect.
Yeah. And your hands stink like it's not a good look.
You've kind of become like, you crank out some serious numbers of mugs. I think you did a run of, was it 600 for Qualcomm?
Yeah, we did. And that was like right at the beginning too. It was probably a little over 600 with the overages. But that was like right when they cleaned house with kind of like everybody from Universal, like after Rona.
Yeah.
And I had gotten to a point where like the years prior to that where I was like, oh, we're making kind of decent money with this mug thing. Like I could probably make it work if we wanted to try. And when everything happened, it was one of those things like I got that call and was like, hey, they want 600. And I was like, all right, well, man, that's kind of crazy. And then it got crazier because they want 612 weeks. And it was one of those, it's like, I don't know if that's possible. So then like we looked at it for a minute. I had to talk it over with my parents. I talked it over with a bunch of people and was like, this is my shot though. Like if I can do this, it's like maybe people will like start taking me seriously. It's not only can I do like the fun kind of Disney inspired stuff, but I could do actual production runs. And
Yep.
I took out a loan. I bought another kiln. We made a ton of molds. Like my dad was not working either, so I hired my dad. He was here every day. My friend like Tanner, the guy who works with everything that I'm doing. Like I mean, we literally had everyone here. But yeah, 600 mugs in 12 weeks. That's I think
Did you
pretty
hit the
much.
deadline?
Yeah, we did. And I
Most
think
most people are like that I've talked to. Once they get to about 100, they're
Yeah.
tapping out.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm done. I never want to look at this
Mhm.
again. How was your morale at the end of 600 bucks?
Like I think it was around like 300 when we were like, oh my God, like we're still like we're only halfway when we got to that point. So I mean it was tough, and then like I've never really had stuff explode, but I mean that deadline was so insane. That was like the first time that I ever had like and I think out of the 600 it was maybe like 4 actually blew up. But like luckily the time of the year that it was here in Florida, it's like you could literally pour a mug in the morning and fire it that night. Like it's if you stick it out in the sun, Florida.
Is it just hot,
Yeah.
so it's gonna like
Yeah.
dry out?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did it and it was cool, and like that was like the first like big aha moment of maybe I can make this work.
So what you're saying is I could not successfully make 600 mugs in New Hampshire in the middle of the winter in
I
12
don't think
weeks.
so. I don't think so. I don't even know if in 6 weeks you could do. I mean, we were running like 25 molds a day, and it would be like two. We never got to 75, and like I would have days where I'd work with my dad, and then there'd be like the days like Tanner would come over and help. And like I know like one time we pushed it, and like we got close. I think the most we ever did a day was like 65. And it's like with somebody doing a run of 100 mugs, it's like, man, you could literally turn it around in a day if you wanted to kill yourself. But it was
Did you
tough.
only have the one master mold?
Well, it was the way that it worked was I had a mug that I already sculpted, and I said if we're gonna do it, like it's got to be something that I've already done, that we have a mold that we can just modify the first mold. We'll
Okay.
throw their logo on it, and then we can like otherwise there's no way to get a custom sculpture to do molds, have it sent for approval. Then you got to make silicone molds, then make plaster molds. They've all got to dry out. So like it was a pretty insane thing, but I think we had one plaster master that got molded, and like normally what I will do is I will make the first mold and we'll test it, and I'll make sure that there's like no undercuts, that everything's gonna work, and
Yep.
then we'll spend the money and do silicone, which like also by the way, silicone not that expensive compared to what everybody's saying. Not that expensive.
You don't think so?
No
What's it
way.
cost you? What's it cost you to make a mug? I've heard huge variations in answers.
Silicone like here I'm like I can't do like a per dollar cost, but it's like you think about it, it's like okay, so a tiki mug is like what? They're like we'll say the average right now is like $100, and I think that's lowballing it. So you do $100 times, a run of 100 mugs. It's like silicone's like $298. Like think about the percentage there. It's like it's really not
Yeah.
that expensive. For what you're getting, like the return on the investment is insane. But we had one silicone mold, and I think with that one, we made 25 molds, and then I think throughout the process we kept pouring molds as we were going because I mean we were turning and burning, and it's like when you run a mold 3, 4 times a day, it's like
Yeah.
the surface goes. As compared to like where I think it was Tiki Rob was saying he's like run 50 or 60, it's like I don't know how many he's getting a day, but it's
Do you
like I
think that's
know.
like a time thing? Like if you're using the mold that quickly, it's gonna wear out faster?
Yeah, because it's soaking up more and more water every single time that you do it. So it's like normally it's like you run it in the morning, and like here in Florida, it's like it'll be like 12 minutes is how long it'll sit. And then after that one, then you got to let it sit like 16, and like you got to keep increasing the amount of time because like the mold already has so much water in it.
Okay.
So again, Florida's a weird place though. I don't think like I look at it and listen to other people like I think it was Mike Biggs who was like, he's like, oh, I let my molds sit for like an hour. And I'm like, dude, if I let mine sit an hour, like they would be solid. And
Well, I mean, I went to Phoenix for Tiki Oasis, and then I ended up going for the Undertow, and I would die. I got off the
yeah.
plane, and it was like 105, and I was talking to them, Odd Rodney actually,
Mhm.
at Undertow, and I'm like, how do you do this? And he's like, man, this is a good day. Like, it gets to be like 120 here.
Yeah,
I'm like, I would just,
this past year we've gone to Phoenix a lot, and it's a different kind of hot because it's like we went a couple times in the summer, and it was like this is brutal. And like I've lived in Florida my whole life, and it's just like when like it's different because like it's weird. I go to the West Coast and like my skin dries out and like my lips get all chapped, and it's like everyone's like, "What's up with you?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm used. There's got to be like it's 85% humidity every day in Florida, so it's different." But Phoenix is cool. Undertow rocks.
yeah, I love Undertow. It's one of my favorite bars. You went there recently, right?
We
Have you
did.
worked with
We
Undertow at all?
Yeah, we made 12 mugs for Undertow. It was weird. Like we went to the Valley Ho pop up, and Crazy Al was there, and he was like selling like his wares, and like I had brought a mug, and I was like, dude, I like your stuff, and I do mugs, so I brought you this mug, and I had no idea. One of the owners, like Rich, was sitting at the bar, and he was just wearing like a black hoodie, and I had no idea who he was, and he saw me talking to me, he saw me pull this mug out of my bag, and he was like, he's like, what is that? And I was like, oh, it's a tiki mug. And he's like, where'd you get it? And I was like, oh, I made it. And then like he started going through my Instagram, and he was like, oh man, like these skulls, do they actually look like this, or is this like filters on Instagram? And I was like, no, they look like that. It's like I'm pretty sure you're not gonna find anything closer, like more anatomically correct than what I'm doing in terms of realism. Like not to pat myself on the back, but he was like, oh, well, can you do some for us? And I was like, yeah, how many do you want? And the 13, like, I guess there's going to be some new thing within Undertow where there's, I don't know, like a scavenger hunt type thing or something to that effect, where once you find them, like you win skull mugs that I made.
Wow,
So
that's insane. Who was
his,
it? Doug Horn. I was talking to Doug Horn, and he was talking about all the crazy ideas that the owners
yeah,
of Undertow have and want to implement.
yep, they were talking about, like, he was talking about that like shark's jaw thing, and he was asking,
Yeah.
he's like, hey, can you do the teeth for that jaw? And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. Like, you're so, like, I've worked in the theme parks forever, and the way his brain works, and like he is so far beyond anyone that I've met in like creative or Imagineering, art and design. Like that
Meaning his
guy,
ideas are just like
yeah,
too big?
he's like, it's not even that they're too big. It's just like what he came up with, and like this is like a guy. I mean, it's a bar, and you don't think of it as like, here you go, this is a bar and it's an escape room and there's a storyline and this and just like, dude, like it blows me away like how creative he is.
I almost find like I love Undertow. Don't get me wrong. I put in my top 5 favorite bars, but I almost am frustrated every time I go there because the 90 minutes is not enough.
Yeah.
It's like the 90 minutes is not enough to read the menu. I can't explore. I can't talk to people. It's just like such a rushed experience. And 90 minutes someplace else might feel like torture. You know, go spend 90 minutes at an Applebee's and you're gonna be ready to go. But at Undertow, you're like, whoa! I thought it was 5 minutes.
Yeah, like even us, like we had done the mugs and like they hooked us up. We had like the VIP section, and it was weird. I had no idea. Like yeah, like they took really good care of us when we showed up to deliver, and like the 90 minutes came up and they're like, all right, you guys are done, and we're like, whoa, this place is like still open. We're like, we're getting thrown out right now, and they're like, well, your 90 minutes is up. So then like we left and we ended up going checking out the other 2 bars, which like that the whole Century Grand is just insane. Like, and again, like being in Orlando with all of Disney World and Universal and all the theme parks. It's like Century Grand is just as much a spectacle as anything here in Orlando, if not more.
Yep. For those people watching, Century Grand is what, so Undertow is located within Century Grand. They actually have 3 bars. The first is Grey Hen RX. It's like a New Orleans inspired bar where they have a, you know, like a gator or a crocodile on the ceiling, and it's all like apothecary jars. And then next door they have Platform 18, which is like a train going through, I believe it's supposed to be Colorado, but there's like the windows have screens to make it look like you're traveling on a boxcar train. And then they have Undertow.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of going to all 3 bars on my first time to Tiki Oasis and got severely messed up.
Hey, there you go.
I don't recommend that, but the bars themselves are fantastic.
Yeah, we did all 3, and then like Rich is also like I guess like in terms of like Romalier, and like I've been learning. I have a friend who's in the Rumbushton Society at Smuggler's Cove, so like every time he comes to Florida, I learn a little bit about rums. Or he's like, hey, do you want to try this? Here's this thing you can't get anywhere, but I have this little tiny vial that I got with Mark and Kate. Do you want to try it? So finally, like when we did finally get to go to the actual Undertow bar, he's like, so what do you like? And I was explaining like the flavor profiles, and he comes back and he like hands me this cocktail, and he's like, let me know what you think of this. And like just based on what I had told him alone, like I don't even know what it was, but it was so good. And it was crazy because we had done these skull mugs and served it in one of them. So it was like sitting at the bar, like drinking out of this skull mug at this killer bar. And it's just like, again, what is happening right now? Like, what did I do to deserve this? So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I love it. I still haven't, so like I've been to Phoenix, I've been to California, I've seen all those tiki bars, New England, such as it is. I mean, we have Kowloon, and that's pretty much it. Florida, I've been to Grog Grotto.
There you go.
Course. But there are a lot of other bars in Grog Grotto. You're a local. What are the best bars? Where do you go?
Oh, actually, like my number 1 bar, like where it's tough. It's competition between 2 people. Like my friend Britt, she was the one who does like most of the cocktails. Like when you get a mug from us, they all come with recipe cards. Britt did the Pineapple Spectre, and she did the Goro, which is also funny. Like that's her last name, like Goro from Mortal Kombat. So
Okay.
we named the second drink after her. Yeah. But she's the head bartender at Sugar Factory Orlando, and a lot of the cocktails and stuff that I've discovered came out of the Smuggler's Cove book. But she would order stuff at Sugar Factory so she could make these killer tiki cocktails. And a lot of people don't know, even though it's this big flashy bar that's like celebrities, candy, and like confetti and sparklers and all this stuff, like you can get a killer tiki cocktail at that place. All you gotta do is ask her. And then the other one is downtown. It's called the Monroe. And Mark, who did the Melly Melly, the cocktail that comes with the West Coast Sam mug, Mark is a killer tiki bartender that we found at a place called the Robinson, which also wasn't a tiki bar. It just happened to be one of those places they did like a Tiki Tuesday or something like that. And we went on a whim, and then we met him, and it's like, I think like a lot of people probably disagree. They all have their favorite bartenders, but it's like if you want a killer tiki cocktail, it's the Monroe, downtown Orlando, just east of I-4. Mark will hook it up, and you will realize like how good these cocktails really are when they're made properly by someone who has a passion for the drinks and the service and everything. Like we love going to see Mark, and we also love going to see Britt. But I think if you really wanted like a super craft cocktail and the tiki, and just like Mark is the place to go over at the Monroe. Don't tell him I said that though, because I'm sure he'll end up watching this video. It's gonna go to his head.
We don't want to inflate anyone's ego any more than possible. No, right. I'm going to finally get to check them out. I know everybody's complaining that the Magical Express is being discontinued at Disney World, but it's going to force me to get a rental car. And now that I have a rental car, I'm going to have to go check out all these bars.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that do cool stuff. It's just like being local, you find the ones that you like, and that kind of be the ones that you frequent. But like Aku Aku's great, like downtown Orlando. Suffering Bastards, killer. Like the way Tom, like what they did with the place, love it. But again, for us, it's like it's just a little far, like to go and get that level of wasted on tiki cocktails and have to get home. Makes it hard.
The drive, probably not the best. You know,
where like downtown, it's like maybe $15, $18 to Uber back to this part of town. So.
All right, perfect. I want to ask you. You mentioned your skulls earlier. Yeah. I want to ask you about the skulls, but we have another giveaway from one of our official sponsors of 13 Nights of Tiki Frights, the Black Lagoon Rum. They make creepy tiki mugs. They make pins. They make glassware. They make crazy cool stuff. The Black Lagoon Rum. Follow them on Instagram. Here's the question. First person to guess it correctly in the comments will win this pin. The question is, it's 13 Nights of Tiki Frights. We're almost at the end. It's night 12. Halloween is tomorrow, if you can believe it. First person to correctly write 2 of the guests that we have interviewed over the course of 13 Nights of Tiki Frights will get to take home this pin. And I'll watch the comments. You mentioned your skull mug. I saw it on your Instagram, or at least one of the recent ones, with the 2 horns coming off the side.
Yeah.
That thing looks bonkers, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it's this one, he's all ceramic. What's really cool, this one was supposed to go up, like, I have some friends that they actually dig up real fossils, and they actually have, like, real artifacts from the Guinea. Like, that's the thing they specialize in. And he was like, oh, could you do a Naga-style skull? And I was like, I think so. I think I could do it. It's doable.
Wait, what does that even mean?
It's like this style, like this, like where these come from, and, like, the tribes that make them. So, like, this is, like, there are real ones that look like this. And we made it, and I was like, yeah, man, we'd probably, like, make some money. This thing's really cool. And then when I finished it, this one chipped. And I was like, well, guess we can't sell that one. So now if you ever see me at any of the shows, this is the one that I'm always drinking out of. But yeah, no.
Your mugs?
Not really. It's crazy. Like they're all broken or cracked or chipped or something like that. Like it's very rare that I make something.
You take advantage of the defects. So I'm going to refill my cocktail. But
no, you're fine. I have one of those mugs too. I think the biggest collections I have Frankie's mugs and Pie-Eyed Tikis are the 2 that I have more of, I think, than anyone else in my entire collection.
We talked about Frankie Taboo Relics a little bit. Pie-Eyed Tikis is another one that's just completely next level.
Yeah, his stuff.
I'm surprised that they're still relatively unknown. Not as many people know about them. But their mugs are absolutely insane. They're Rutherford Zombie with all the different glazes. Definitely check out Pie-Eyed Tikis. Yeah,
we bought our first kiln was bought off of Jason, and like how we really got into all this stuff was like when Volcano Bay opened. Who I started the company with, like she was working on Volcano Bay with Jason at Nassau, and then I was doing stuff at Universal, And when Jason found out that I made molds, he was like, "Oh, if you can make molds, you should try tiki mugs." And we spent like $150 and we bought our first kiln off of him. You could fit 4 mugs inside of this little tiny thing, but it's like I always attribute like all this stuff. Like if we never would have taken that chance with him and he hadn't to like push to be like, you guys should try this. It's like I
Yep.
wouldn't be here today. It's stupid, dumb luck. But it is crazy because Jason's stuff is beautiful. I don't think there's anybody really doing what he's doing. And like we run into each other at the like we shop at the same stores and I'm like, dude, like how are you not selling out in like 5 seconds every time? Like you should have a waiting list of so many people because your stuff is so killer. And he's like, I just make them for fun and I'm doing it because I like it. I'm like, dude, you don't know, man.
It's one of those things where you can be like the best ceramic mug maker, and if you don't have the Instagram game or social media, like there's so many different facets of being a mug maker. It's not just making mugs. It's not just making your art and putting it out there. You have to like promote yourself. And for a lot of people, that's not the most comfortable thing.
Yeah.
It's not a natural skill set. That's one of the reasons we made the Search for Tiki, because we started seeing all these artists that were like super cool and nobody knew about it. And we're like, this is something that the Tiki community needs. But yeah, Rutherford is crazy. We did have a winner of the pin here from the Black Lagoon room. Chrissy_Weena, Weena. You won the pin. You guessed Tiki Rob and Oakwash. We did interview Oakwash.
Hey, there you go.
But with that said, we also wanted to interview more monsters. It didn't end up happening, so please give more monsters a follow. He's another one of those incredible artists that's not perhaps super well known, but he makes some of the best creature mugs out there.
Yeah, his stuff's cool, man. He's on the level of like what, like when we first started doing all this stuff, like he's in the very same wheelhouse where like what I'm into, and like his stuff's pretty killer.
He's making crazy glazes.
Yeah, I don't have time for that. Like it's like if you look, like everything we do is like super gross and dirty, and it's like it's meant to look like lived in and worn, like it came out of the jungle. But like doing clean, pristine lines, like Tiki Tony's the monkey mug. That was a challenge.
I should have pulled that out so you could see it, so I could show it off. But
I got a broken
that
one
monkey
back there
mug, man.
somewhere. It's this way, right up there.
Yep. That's another question I have for you. You're an artist, obviously. You want to make some stuff that interests you.
Yep.
The stuff that interests you is not necessarily the stuff that is going to interest everyone else, right?
That's
so it's
it.
kind of a balancing act of I have to survive and eat, and I want to make the stuff I want to make. How do you balance your personal mugs with client mugs?
It's weird. Like my business is really framed on making things for other people. We do that more than anything, and I get a lot of flack for it. Like there are a lot of people in Tiki that are like, "Why do you make mugs for other people? Like your stuff is so good. There's no reason." And it's like, well, the thing is, it's like we don't do pre-sales. I'm not really into that.
Yes.
I don't like the vibe. It's a lot of stress too. Like when you sell, 100, 200, 300 mugs, and then suddenly you have all those people's money, and then suddenly you have to produce, and like you never know what's going to happen. And it's like I've done it before where it's like you literally lose an entire kiln load of mugs, and it's like, okay, well now we have to start over, and that's an entire week and a half gone. And now on top of that added pressure, these people are still waiting, and you can't be like, oh, well, I screwed that up. Sorry, it's ceramics, that happens. So when we do the big runs, it's like the runs keep the shop lights and everything, the power on,
Yep.
And then we take the personal mugs. It's like what I think a lot of people don't realize is like my personal mugs, I don't do really huge runs of anything. It's like, yeah, we have like the inspired stuff where it's like we'll do them. We know there's an audience for that, but it's like more times than not, like I'll make like a handful of things here and there, and then they go up and then they disappear. Like I don't ever post about it. They're up there, and if you find them, you find them. And I think there's a lot of really
cool. Start refreshing your website more. That's what you're saying.
It's hard, yeah. But I always get messages because like the provider that we use, like, oh, your store, there's nothing in there. I don't see it, and it's like it's all gone. And it's like I don't ever feel like, I think social media is one of those things where it's like I try to keep it social, because like there's a lot of times where I'm scrolling and I just see it's like this person's selling this thing, selling this and selling this and selling this and selling this, and it's like it's kind of like a lot of noise of all of these things being sold where it's like put out some signal of like, this is just this cool thing that I did for the sake of doing it. Like, here's just, it's art for the sake of art without
Yep.
having, there's no monetary motivation. It's like, I just want to become a better artist. So I made this thing, you know? And it's kind of weird because people are always like, well, how much is that? And it's like, well, it's not for sale. It's just like, I did it for fun.
What?
But
You make stuff that's not for
yeah,
sale?
right? Like, I think the last one, one second. Like, the last one, it's weird. I have a very distinct style, but like, we did this Trader Sam mask. But like,
Dude, that's
this is,
gigantic. You
it's
just
huge.
like
Yeah, it's
casually
huge.
had
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, well, it's sitting in my bar. Um, but it was one of those things that we just kind of did it for fun. But it's like, again, it's like, how do you change it up and make it like, if this is based on like an actual like face mask from New Guinea, and like how would it look, and like hence why it's not perfect like it is in the actual bar. It's like, I love the Disney aesthetic, but it's missing the danger element. So it's always like,
Yeah.
make it gross and disgusting. Like, what would it look like if it was actually out in the jungle?
Dude, what was that made with?
That was sculpted in ZBrush, and then it was I 3D printed the whole thing.
That must have been so expensive to print.
Maybe like $8.
Really? That's it?
Yeah, it's not like, again, there's a lot of people that talk about like the barrier to entry on all of this stuff. It's really not expensive. Like, there's a lot of like startup costs, but it's like once you've hit that point and you get over that, it's like, it's once you learn and like you've got a kind of like a depth to using it, it's like, it's really not that expensive. I think like a roll of filament's like $17. And it's like, I have you can't see it because the camera's facing the wrong way, but I have like a Marquesan tiki that I sculpted. He's like 5.5 feet tall. I think it took like 3 rolls of filament. And it's like, if I were to buy a tiki hand carved like that, it'd be $1 billion, you know?
How do you, so obviously those are big.
Mm-hmm.
Are you like printing them in pieces and assembling them?
Yeah, but I also have a pretty big printer. That's like the other thing. It's like, it's pretty big printer to begin with.
Okay.
But I think
So you're not printing little 3-inch cubes.
No. It's like everything. It's like the one that I have, it will do like a 12 by 12 by 12, like a full cubic foot. But
how do you take a 3D printed material, a resin, and turn it into something that looks like it's been in a jungle for 300 years?
I think it's like all the prop guys say, lots of weathering. We just stress it and muck it up. I think that's like the main thing with everything that I do is like, just muck it up. It's like, it looks cooler. Like, I remember, I can't grab it because my Alexa's hooked to it. I guess if I unplug her, I could show you. But I did a Tiki Room drummer, just the drum. And I posted a picture of it like before it was painted, like, or rather as it was painted, like how it is in the Tiki Room. And I was like, all right, now it's time to like muck it up and make it look real. And then like I posted photos of it finished, and everybody's like, you ruined it. Why would you do that? Like, it doesn't look like that. I'm like,
yeah,
now it looks cooler. Like, it's like, that's my whole thing. It's like, it's got to look gross and lived in. Like, that's the aesthetic that I like. And I think, you know, being here and working in the theme parks and like seeing all of that stuff, what's really neat and like what I appreciate about like the Disney style Adventureland, it's like, it's cool, but when you add the danger element and you make it gross, like then it takes it next level, because like the ideas like Mark Davis and like just all the original Imagineers, like that kind of thing, where it's like, all right, how do you plus what they did and make it like scary? Because you know, again, being in the horror world and Halloween, it's like, yeah, make it gross and gnarly.
This is kind of a side tangent, but you mentioned Imagineers. You posted recently on your Instagram you got to meet the Tony Baxter.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Is that an out-of-body experience, man?
Yeah, it was one of those things. I do a lot of charity stuff with Give Kids the World, like through Hearts of Reality, from being on a reality TV show. And we've got to know like a bunch of people over there. And when Give Kids the World put that event together, it was one of those things where like, hey, we're going to have like some Imagineering people. And there's some people that you should probably meet. And like, so we went, and Tony Baxter was doing his signing, and we had no idea. We went to go see, who was it? Somebody's interview. They was doing some Haunted Mansion thing. We're like, let's go watch that, and then we'll come back. And Tony was gone, and it was like, oh, damn, I missed it. I didn't realize he was there. So the next day we went back, and they're like, hey, can you meet us in this room or whatever? And we walk in, and it's like Jason Sorrell is standing there with Tony Baxter, and they're like, are you Dave? Like, you're the guy that we've been looking for. Apparently we want to talk to you. And it was just like, what is happening right now? Like, crazy. And then like it kind of turned into like Imagineer, like just like the bingo card, because like the next week like Bob Gurr came to town and we got to listen to Bob Gurr talk, and we got to meet him. We gave Bob Gurr a tiki mug. You know, he had a luau for his 90th birthday. And he was like, where do you want me to sign this? And I'm like, no, man, that's for you, dude. Like, I saw you had a big luau for your birthday, and I'm giving you a mug. And he's like, oh, well, I guess we got to go take it over to Sam's and test it out and see if it works. And I was like, yeah, man. Like, yeah.
I'm in. You
And
don't have
then
to ask
like,
me twice.
and then a week later, we were watching, what is it, Happily Ever After, the old show. And like, we're sitting, I turned to the right, and like Zach Ridley was sitting right next to us. And I was like, oh my God, like, what is happening this week? I was waiting on like to go to the grocery store and like run into Joe Rody. It was like, just one of those things. Like, this is how the week's
Dude,
going.
you're
Like,
gonna
let's
fall
just,
over dead.
yeah, right.
Like lightning is just striking too many times. Your
Yeah,
days are numbered.
it was nuts. I mean, I ran into him and Marty Sklar one time. I think we were coming back from Disneyland, a weird trip, and they were on the same flight as us. And I remember I walked up and I was like, "Hey, can I get a picture with you guys?" And they're like, "You want a picture with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, I work in the theme parks. I know who you guys are." And he's like, "This is weird. Like nobody's ever been like, do you want a photo? Like stopped us in the airport." And I was like, "Dude, I'll kick myself if I don't." So it's like I know I have it somewhere on my computer, but it's a photo of me, Joe Road, and Marty Sklar, and it's like, again, it's like, what are the odds of that happening?
Back in the day, before everybody knows.
Yeah, this may be like 6 or 7 years ago.
That's so cool.
Yeah, really neat.
So one of the photos that we shared to promote this is you, I believe, at Volcano Bay,
That's it.
and you're surrounded by these manliest of men, all done
Yeah.
up, and is it Maori?
Yeah, they were all Maori warriors. It was super cool. Again, it was when Volcano Bay was opening. We had I had no idea. It was like insert foot in mouth. Like we went to go meet these guys, and they're like, yeah, they're here from New Zealand for the week. You guys are gonna be hanging out with them all week, and they have these like big stamps to do like some like larger body tattoos, and they're like, yeah, we just roll on house paint and stamp ourselves. We're like, well, we're like makeup artists, and like we can't like stamp house paint on you guys or whatever. So we're talking, and then like it kind of got like quiet for a moment. Everybody was like, all right, what's happening? And I was like, hey man, I'm into like doing tiki mugs and stuff. Can you tell me about like Maori like culture? And everyone was like, what came out of your mouth? And it was sort of those things for like all week, and everybody's like, oh, it's the tiki guy, the tiki guy, the tiki guy. But they were super cool. Learning how to do like watching them do like they perform the haka for us, and it's like
Okay.
when you're in like a enclosed room, like like to have the honor of like somebody doing that for you. But we learned a lot about like Maori culture from those guys, and it was one of those things too where like we were able to trade like our knowledge, because I guess they have like competitions in New Zealand of like all like traditional like Maori culture, like how they do like,
Yep.
the dance moves and all that stuff. So we got to teach them a couple things about makeup, and in exchange, like we learned about them and their stuff. So it's like it was one of those weird surreal moments of like this just happened to work out like this, and they were super cool and like taking pictures with everybody. Like everybody, like they're like, you got to stick your tongue out this way and open your eyes like this. You got to like instill fear. And I remember like the last day, like the chief, like I remember because everybody was joking about the tiki mugs, but we're coming like we were leaving. And he like comes over and he like grabs me by the shoulder and he's like, it's been a fun week. And like I was like, he had like this death look in his eyes, and I was like, oh my God, like what did I do? And he's just like, it's been fun. He's like, I'm glad we got to meet. And I was like, oh, okay, well this is pretty awesome. But yeah, it was like an insane week when Volcano Bay opened, like living with those guys and like seeing like the water women and like watching guys do like fire dancing or fire spinning and all that other, like it's just an insane week of like all
Were
this
they
tiki
all
stuff.
brought in there to kind of just like kind of legitimize Volcano Bay, so it's not like a commercial?
Well, it wasn't really like to legitimize it, like the story of Volcano Bay, like the Waturi, and like I guess they didn't want to like attribute Volcano Bay to like one specific type of culture, so they brought in
Okay.
people from like all of Polynesia and like kind of threw it together to make its own like melting pot of what Volcano Bay is.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're ever in Orlando, I'm sorry,
Is Volcano Bay? I should ask. So I've never been to Volcano Bay. It's one of the only
you're
parts
missing out.
that
You're
I'm
missing
missing
out.
out. Is it based in reality, or is it like a fictitious place
No.
of
Yeah, it's
inspired by all these other?
it's inspired, and it's like it's the coolest, most tiki place like in all of like Orlando. It's just insane. Like you literally can't see anything. Like you come around the corner and it's literally like the big volcano bay, like on the beach. There's tikis everywhere, like the whole
Uh,
thing. Like, dude, it's so cool, and it's like it's not all like traditional tiki. It's all like kind of like just like a quarter turn of the screw into fantasy. But it's like the whole place is so beautiful and so awesome. And like when we were working the opening, I remember it was like 2 days before, and like there were bulldozers behind us. Like all the plants weren't even in the ground. And we're like, man, there is no way this place is opening in 2 days. And then like we did all the makeup really early that morning. We got carted over, and like suddenly like all the pathways were cleared out. The beaches were white, like everything was super clean. All the plants were in the ground. We're like, dude, like what kind of like insane like fairies do you have working here? Because like 2 days ago it did not look like it was ready to open. But it was cool. It was like one of the most memorable weeks of being at Universal and doing that kind of stuff.
there's that artist pressure again.
Yeah.
Coming
Not
down
us.
to the
Not
last
us.
minute.
I think they were doing it like I have friends who worked in like HR and stuff, and they were like, "Hey, can you come over and put plants in the ground?" I think it was like one of those things where it was literally like anybody that could did it.
If you have a
And
pulse, get over here
yeah, yeah.
and start
And
digging.
the final result, it's like I don't. There's a lot of cool stuff in Orlando and a lot of cool like themed environments, and it's like Volcano Bay. Like I will argue with people blue in the face. It's like one of the most beautiful like kind of that aesthetic that you can find in Orlando. I love going there. It's a great place to drink, even if you don't do water rides or anything else. Like they got two different bars. You hang out on the beach, watch the volcano. Like it's
Do you
killer.
do water rides?
Yeah, we
How
do
is
everything.
how's the body plunge through the
Oh no, I don't do that.
shit? You don't do
That's Tanner. Yeah.
that?
Next
You
time
have
we do
limits.
this, I'll make sure Tanner's over. He does it. He's like he rides the thing. He's like, come on. And I'm like, nah, I'm good, man. I'm old now. I'm good.
Come on, you're telling me if I make the voyage, the trek down there to
I will
Volcano
wait
Bay,
for you
won't
at the
do body
bottom.
plunge?
No, I'll wait for you at the bottom with a cocktail in hand.
You
As
can have a
a
couple
congratulations.
cocktails to get you in the spirit.
No way.
You, me, and Frankie.
Yeah. We gotta get Frankie to go. But even like
Volcano
today,
Bay.
no tiki mugs, but this is the Volcano Bay opening glass or whatever, the entertainment team. So
Do you think Frankie is as chicken as you? Or do you think he's going to do the body plunge with me?
I don't know. He'll probably do it just to shut me up. He'll be like, "See, I told you." Um, but I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll have to go and figure it out.
Be a good time, man. We're getting towards the end of our time frame. We're on overtime. I want to ask you about Kong, though. There was
Right.
one time I was posting a story of Kong. I think it was the animatronic. I forget her name. Absolutely bonkers animatronic.
Mhm.
And you texted me. You were like, "Hey, I worked on that."
Yeah, it
You
was
worked
cool.
on Kong?
Yeah, we worked on. It was one of those weird things. We were hired by creative. Like even though like we were the makeup department, they had wanted some crazy stuff, and like I guess they were trying to vendor everything out. And they're like, well, one of the guys who was in entertainment was like, why don't you just go next door? Like that's what those guys do. And it was one of those things where they're like, really? So they came over and they like pitched the idea. And what we ended up doing was we sculpted we did life casts off of 4 people from Universal Creative, cleaned everything up, added backs of the heads, like redid it, and basically we made like these giant GI Joe action figures that are the actual drivers. Like if you ever look, the neck is like a perfect cylinder, so they're a
Okay.
little weird looking. But we did those. We did there were small scale models of like that entire room where like the Shaw woman was. Like we did the scale models for that stuff in our shop, and then uh, there's a bunch of videos in the queue. Like as you're going through the ride, like you see like there's the Skull Islanders that are like in the queue that are all like video screens. Those are like makeups. Like I had done those makeups. Like we sculpted all that stuff. And then when the ride was actually supposed to open, there was a bunch of different like plans that had happened. And I was kind of like the lead artist for makeup in what we were doing of like, hey, we got to do all these props and stuff. And it's like, again, if I could turn my camera around, like I have some of it hanging up on the wall over here. But they were gonna have like all these Skull Islanders like come out of the ride and like start attacking like the press and everybody of all this stuff and like kind of like summon Kong. And
Oh,
then lots of crazy stuff happened, and we ended up just doing this really cool makeup on this girl Megan, where we took like a little tiny young white girl and turned her into like a like super ancient old crazy woman from Skull Island. And it was not only like aging makeup, it was a race change makeup, and it was just one of these things where it was just like absolute insanity. But again, it's one of those weird moments of like how often are we going to get to do this? And then it's cool because like it's one of the things from being in entertainment, the stuff that I did never really lasted. It's like we did some stuff for Harry Potter that, you know, you can see, but only at certain times of the year, or same thing with Halloween, it's only out, but it's like, it's
Okay.
cool because
Yep.
you can go into Kong and it's like, oh, dude, we did that, and it's still there, and it's like I can take my friends and family to go see it, so it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I once you told me that, I was just like looking at it and I'm like, this ride looks like Shrunken Monkey.
It's very much my
All the
style.
skulls and everything.
That's the stuff that I'm into, and it's like that. I think that's what sets like my tiki apart, and like what I like about looking like when people post their collections on the internet. It's like you have everybody's mugs, and then it's like my stuff is in there, and it's like it doesn't look like anybody else's. So I try and always stay away from the fact like I don't ever want to think of it as like a mug. Like I want it to be like that's an actual artifact that somebody found, and like it's part of your collection. Like it's never to make it like a hey, I'm a tiki mug maker making mugs. It's like no, I'm like an artist who uses ceramics as a medium to give you like a display piece that you can also use.
And it's this crazy stuff that looks like it was made 1,000 years ago,
That's the whole point.
even though you just barely made it. Like that skull you showed. Dude, how do you, like, with a glaze, that skull that you showed us earlier,
Oh, we talk
how,
about glaze.
like,
Oh.
how do you do that?
uh, there's a lot of it that comes from makeup effects, like the techniques and stuff that I use. And then a lot of it, I think more often than not, is like what a lot of people don't know is like I make all of my stuff. Like so the glazes and everything, like none of it is like off the shelf and store bought. Like I do all of that stuff at home behind the scenes.
Yep.
And like so many people are like, how do you get it to look like that? I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of slop it on there and then it comes out of the kiln looking like that. But it's been, you know, 4 years of trial and error to get to that point. And I think like just now, like I'm finally starting to come around where like I understand it. And it's like there are other people that I see like their glaze is just like insane. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys do it and keep it clean. But it's like if you want it to look gross and disgusting, like it's 1,000 years old, it's like bring it over to my place and I'll muck it up and make it look awesome. But it's like clean, beautiful perfection, like not really in my wheelhouse.
I think there's always a little bit of ceramic envy. Like every
Yeah.
ceramic artist sees what someone else is doing, and they're like, "Man, that is so cool." And it's kind of a cool thing that you could be making ceramics for however many years and still look
hmm
at someone else's art and be like,
Yeah,
"How did you do that?"
there's some stuff, and it's like what's really crazy too is like with a lot of the stuff that I do is like we don't do really complex molds. Um, it's been so long of doing molds and everything and understanding like draft angles and how to get certain pieces to open from other ones. It's like all of my stuff's like super like really simple. It's like it's all like two pieces. Like nothing comes out of like these insane like I watch like Van Tiki and I watch like in terms of like the makeups world like Rob Freitas. It's like these guys are doing these pieces that fall apart and then the core comes out and it's just like whoa, like it's cool and I appreciate it, but it's like for me it's how can we do it in as few pieces as possible to decrease the labor and spend more time on the glaze.
When you got to crank out 600 mugs with
Yeah.
Qualcomm, that's
I
pretty
yeah,
important. You don't want an
there
18-piece mold.
there may be 200 in the garage right now for Qualcomm. I'm not sure, but there may or may not
Ooh.
be. But yeah, there's so we did Sam like last week was crazy. We had the Sam release on Tuesday. Spooky Empire came out with their mug on.
Congratulations, by the way,
Thank you. I
on selling
appreciate
out.
everyone.
It didn't take long.
Yeah, but that's never what it's about. Like so many people, like everyone I know is like, "Oh, you did it this time." It's like that's not important. Like it's like people liked it. That's what's cool. People thought it was worth the value of what we asked for our artwork. Like that's what's really cool. Like it's still mind blowing to me that it's like 300 people were like, "I want that thing," and they bought it. And it's like it still blows my mind. It's so cool and so awesome. But yeah, we had that was Tuesday. Spooky Empire's mug was Friday afternoon, and then we did like a custom party mug for Sierra, my girlfriend. When we did her mom's 60th birthday. They'd had it at Kon-Tiki while I was stuck here in Florida. She
Happy
traveled with
birthday.
all the mugs. Yeah, I will let her know you said so. But we had that going on, and then within that, it's been like it's been 10 days since the Sam release, and there's already 105 Qualcomm mugs sitting on the shelf out there ready to go. So
You didn't
there's
take like
no
a deep breath, like
no. No,
relax now.
maybe
Just went
when,
right into the next.
yeah, and then also that same week we delivered like the first like artist proofs for like a new client, which like it was seen, it was out yesterday, it was hiding in plain sight. I'm not gonna tell anybody who or what it was, but it was out in plain sight, and no one said anything. So I'm waiting for the first person to be like, "Oh, you did that."
Now we're gonna have to do some digging.
Yeah, just check around like Instagram and a couple other places that like just think about yesterday, all of yesterday's content. You may or may not see it, but it was hiding in plain sight. So that's kind of cool. So it's been a busy week, but I'm hoping after the 14th we can reset, and I think like people who are coming to NQLA in Atlanta, like it's gonna be insane. Like I have a lot of really cool stuff planned for that show. So
So you're gonna be there.
I'll be there. Yeah, we're gonna part. Frankie's gonna be there. We'll have to find a body plunge somewhere in the hotel.
No, he responded earlier that he's not gonna do it either.
Oh no.
So apparently it's just gonna be me doing the body plunge because
so
you're both a bunch of chickens.
He's just as intelligent as I am and won't ride it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But you have a good time. I mean, we'll be at the bottom waiting for you.
Okay.
It's also a lot of
cocktails,
steps.
and I'll have some fun.
Yeah.
I got so many comments. We posted a picture of the three of us, and we're all wearing black hats. I've traded it out for this tiki hat, but we're all wearing black hats and glasses. So apparently that's how we're known. We're the black hat and glasses guys.
Yeah, Tiki Tony, he always comments. He's like, "What is it? Just a thing on like the East Coast? You gotta have black hat and black glasses." That's it.
So good.
But I do all black everything. You see, I don't do the aloha or any of that stuff. It's like you go to a tiki. I got yelled at by Typhoon Tommy. It's like, "You're at a tiki show. Where's your shirt? And where's your cutler?" And I'm like, "Dude, I wear black."
I've gotten the same stuff. There's a photo of me circulating. It was Tiki Oasis in Arizona, and it's me on the roof of the Hotel Valley Ho. And it's Rob, Miss Swizzlestick, Nonsense Betty, David Ye, Jenna Beth. There's some other people, and they're all wearing tiki stuff. And then there's me, and I'm wearing literally a black like athletic shirt that says Hollis Fast 5K. I got so many comments like, "It's not tiki, bro," and I'm like, "I'm sorry." Like, there's so many facets of tiki, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes people are into the exotica music. Sometimes people are into the tiki mug. Sometimes people are into the events. Sometimes people are into the aloha shirt. Sometimes people like putting the swizzle sticks in their hair.
Yeah.
I just have never gotten into the aloha shirts. I look weird.
I have like maybe like 3, and one of them was from I have like the McBiff one, but it's like other than that it's all black. And it's like we'll go to the tiki shows, I wear all black, and then we'll go to the monster shows, and like then I'll wear an aloha shirt to that one because it's again the same thing. Like everybody remembers the guy is like, why wasn't he? He was just in all black. And then you go to the monster show, and like that guy is wearing like I have this like stupid like blue pineapple like blazer that they sell, and I'll wear that to like Spooky Empire or Monster Palooza, or like we used to wear these banana shirts, and everybody's like, what are you doing wearing that? You don't look like anybody else. And I'm like, exactly. So.
You know, that's the thing. You just got to be you.
Exactly.
You know, you could be into some of it without being into all of it.
Yeah. Closest you'll
see. Saying goth tiki. Yes. There you go. Goth tiki. That's a thing now. 13 Nights of Tiki Frights.
It's right up my alley. That's where I'm at.
Adjacent. Halloween and tiki. I don't understand how that came to be, but it's a thing now. So roll with it.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right, dude. We're running on overtime.
Sweet.
I know you. You're a ceramic artist. You're not just a mug maker. Who are you following these days? Who's making art that you love?
Oh man, there's so many people, and like there's so many accounts. Like I'm trying to think like just who we saw today. Like Norman Cabrera. I follow like Miles Tevis, Rob Freitas, Carl Lyon. If you want to look up like mold makers. Trying to think, there's so many people. There's like Jordu Shell is another killer sculptor. Mikey Rotella is another killer. Like everybody that I'm into is all like from like the film business, and then it's like they're a whole other realm of people like ceramics. It's like you look at like Mitchell Spain's stuff, Tim Ceramics, like his stuff doesn't look like anybody else's. Van Tiki is like on his own league. I'm trying to think, but then there's also a lot of traditional ceramic people. Like I'm waiting. I'm trying to find that one body where I can do like an actual like ceramic display piece because I love like stoneware glaze. Like it's just, there's something about like hand thrown pottery with those kind of glazes that are beautiful. It's like I want to do that in tiki so bad. It's hard to find like what shape are we going to put it on where people appreciate it. But it's like eventually that will come. But it's like that's the stuff that I'm into. I'll have to post a list. I'll respond to that specific question.
List.
And I'll tag everybody.
That's what this is all about, getting people to enjoy ceramics, love ceramics, follow ceramics, support ceramics.
Yep.
That's why we do 13 Nights of Tiki Frights. That's why we do the Search for Tiki. Man, it has been a pleasure having you on.
I appreciate
I
it.
feel like we only scratched the surface. We could talk for more hours, so perhaps we'll have to have you on again. But I know people want to know who's going to win.
Don't tell
big
anyone.
Tiki.
I gave you like $100 so you'd say my name. Don't tell anybody.
Oh, don't tell anyone. We'll keep it between us.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. Big's Tiki, the Swamp Creeper, one of my favorite mugs that has come out in recent years. That's why we saved it for almost the end. Tomorrow's Halloween, our last show with Faust. Faust does not necessarily make his own mugs, but he vandalizes mugs. He takes mugs and brings them to the next level. We're excited to talk to him tomorrow. The winner of this mug is Jim Winters. Jim Winters, congratulations. You have won the Swamp Creeper. Dude, it's been a pleasure.
I appreciate it. I think this is one of those rarities. I always get yelled at. There's no pictures of me on my Instagram. Like Tiki Tony always yells at me. He's like, you don't ever post yourself. I'm like, no, man, it's about the artwork. But I appreciate the opportunity.
But now you're out there. Now people know
the
man behind the art.
Cool. I appreciate
Shrunken Monkey. It's been a pleasure, dude. We'll have to hang out soon. I'm going to be at Inu Haley.
We'll be there.
So I'll see you there. You're vending?
Yep.
If people want to follow you, where do they go?
It's all the Shrunken Monkey on Instagram is probably the easiest place. Like I have my website, which is also theshrunkenmonkey.com. We don't really do Facebook, but then there's also like my personal page if you want to see like more of that kind of artwork, which it's DocFX13. But that's where you'll see like all that prop stuff that we were talking about. There's Ghostbusters, Stranger Things, Halloween Horror Nights, King Kong,
all my favorite things.
All these movies, Halloween, all the cool stuff that's not ceramic related or tiki is over there.
I love it, dude.
Cool.
Give the Shrunken Monkey some love. Follow him on Instagram. It's been a pleasure, dude.
Thanks, man.
I'll see you anyway.
I'll see you there.
Have a good night.
You too.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Enjoy it. Check your candy. Don't blow out your pumpkins early.
Love it,
Catch
dude.
you later. See ya.